Last year around this time, I did a video on Japanese tunnels that some say are haunted. Now, believe what you will, but seeing as it's that time of year again, this year I wanted to take a peek inside a Japanese cemetery. Let's go this way. Look how creepy this tunnel is. But this here is Yanaka Cemetery, and it's actually one of the biggest cemeteries in all of Tokyo. This entranceway that you see right here comes in from the Nippori station side, and actually if you look right over here, you can see the station and hear some of the sounds of the trains in the city in the background, and juxtaposed against that right here is the cemetery. Now this cemetery is quite large and goes on for some time, but if you're anything like me, you're probably sitting there wondering, well, why are you walking through a cemetery? Now I know that depending on the country, the approach to cemeteries can be quite different. Some are very private spaces and some are much more open. And here in Japan, there's actually a public road that runs through this, and this is a very popular spot for people to come and cycle or walk their dogs, or even in the spring, a very popular cherry blossom place. In fact, if you look right here, there's an entire little stadium space within the cemetery for practicing things like baseball. It's not uncommon to see this space being used, and there's even a net up above to stop any baseballs or anything from flying out into the cemetery itself. And even if we exit out of this park right here, there's a children's playground right here. Now there's a park in this cemetery that I'm actually going to show you a little bit later that has a little bit of a creepy story, but for now, let's go explore the cemetery itself. As I walk through here, my original worry for tonight is that it was going to be too dark to film any of this. Like, it's pretty late out right now, but we got an overcast night and the lights of the city just reflect and fill up the sky. Like that over there, that's the city of Ueno, and it's just kind of giving us this nice softbox light to see the cemetery with. It's so overcast tonight that even the Tokyo skytree has just been engulfed in clouds. You can barely see it. Coming from this area, from Nippori Station, by the way, there's a lot of foot traffic and people walking their dogs in this cemetery at night. If you head this way and break to the side, we'll actually come across something that makes this particular cemetery a little bit, maybe a little more than a little bit special. Because you see, while the area of Yanaka is really well known for its high density of temples, this cemetery, which is run by the city of Tokyo, still allows some residents of the city to apply to be rested here, which would be a huge honor, because this is the final resting place of Tokugawa Yoshinobu, Japan's final shogun, or I guess military dictatorial leader. He's rested right here in this cemetery. Down this way a bit, and we will go check it out later on. Be prepared. It's slightly anticlimactic, but as you can see, this road cuts right through the cemetery with little walking paths off to the side, and many of the trees here are cherry blossom trees, so this area can get very, very crowded in the spring, but also in the fall, the colors in the cemetery and the area around can be really beautiful. One of my favorite parks, Ueno Park, is also just down the road, as well as Yanaka Ginza, an area really well known for street food. The very first time that I ever visited Yanaka Cemetery, I was actually brought here by a local, and at first I was really apprehensive about the idea of, wow, look at that tree trunk, just coming into the area back here off of the main path. But then I got into here and you would always see people walking their dogs or reading the different tombstones, and I never really imagined a cemetery as a place to just go and take a walk, but Yanakai is kind of one of those places. It's almost like a tourist destination for some Japanese. A lot of people come here to visit because there are famous actors or novelists or important people through Japanese history, more than I could possibly name, who have been rested here in this cemetery. Like, I have been through here dozens and dozens of times, and every single time that I come with a Japanese friend, they always go on this hunt for some famous person that I've never heard of, a different person every single time. But it's always a bit of a learning experience, and you get that sense of exploration. So if you ever get the chance to come here with a Japanese friend, definitely do that. Admittedly, it's been some time since I've come out here, but the park I was talking about earlier, the one with the interesting backstory, is right over here. Actually, a little bit of a kid's playground back here. And the first time I saw this, it really threw me for a loop. I couldn't wrap my head around the idea of a kid's park inside of a cemetery. Now, I later learned that temples, which are often a part of Japanese cemeteries, sometimes run daycare centers. And originally I thought that would explain the parks, but it seems that this particular park has a story which is just a little bit darker. The story actually starts right here, where there used to be this pagoda, which was burnt down in 1959 in a murder-suicide. Now, the pagoda had stood here for over 160 years. It had survived the elements, it had survived the war, and then it gets burned down. And in its stead, they wanted to build a big, beautiful park. But that never really played out. What they ended up with was a set of swings, a single slide, and this sandbox over here. Right here. And this says that you can use it if you want to, but because of the number of cats in the area, they want you to recover it with this little tarp when you're finished using it. To give you an idea of the scale of this place, this is where we are right here, near the remains of the pagoda. This right here is where we came in. We've only come this far, and there's still all of this left. This is the graveyard of the shogunate. If you find these signs right here, this kind of points you in the direction of the graveyard of the Tokugawa family. Pretty sure this street right here is the last street with actual lighting. And we're going to be heading down this way. Gotten so... That's okay. I brought a light. And this wall right here, this is the graveyard of the Tokugawa family. And this is why I said it would be moderately anticlimactic. The area is actually gated, so you can't really get inside or see inside. It is like this all the way around. Albeit it still feels like there's plenty else to see in the area, but can you imagine traveling from afar and coming all the way out here to see this graveyard, and you get here and it's gated and closed. I guess now with the internet and blogs and everything, probably less of a problem than it used to be, but still that would be disappointing. This cemetery is honestly massive. I don't think I've ever actually come into the area behind that graveyard there. In fact, I can't remember the last time I came out here at night. Still flabbergasted, by the way, how bright the sky is, considering it is almost midnight right now. Whew, but I did promise you guys a long time ago that I would come out here and do a piece on this. And admittedly, this did turn out to be a little less spooky or creepy and a bit more of a slightly informative and kind of peaceful nighttime walk. But I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I have. It would mean the world to me if you haven't already, if you would give that subscribe button some love. And you know, I will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.